somehow the wrong sex due to factors before birth, every single identical twin would have the same gender identity all the time. But they don't. Why? Identical twins have identical DNA. So if it were in the genes and solely in the genetic, the DNA solely there, then 100% of the time they would both be transgender or both be non-transgender. The best twin study we have shows that the vast majority do not match. If you have one identical twin who's transgender, 72% of the time the other twin is normal. That tells us that it's post-birth effects that primarily impact your identity.
It turns out that there is a sexual abuse history when they were a child, or depression, and they just haven't worked through those issues yet. And the solution is therapy. The solution is soul searching, is not to just put them on cross-sex hormones and start the process of them transitioning. I really fear for what our future is going to be when these very confused children are now adults and leading our country. And that is why, my friends, I am very scared about this transgender, gender non-binary movement. I don't think that it's natural. It's very anti-God. It is anti-biology, and it's destructive to our future. It is destructive to our communities and to our countries.
Pushed by adult trans activists as a way of pursuing their own interests and agenda. More and more trans campaigners are using trans kids effectively as a moral shield, hoping that if they can convince the world that transgenderism is something that emerges as early as 3 or 4, then it must be natural, good, healthy, and thus should be insulated from criticism. That is, they're effectively experimenting on children, both socially and medically, both through filling kids' heads with nonsense about dysphoria and offering them drugs, in order to advance their own adult demands for greater recognition. This is repulsive, the creation of a new generation of castrados who are paraded and praised in public by self-serving trans activists who only want more political clout and respect.
6,500, at least 6,500 genetic differences between men and women. Men and women cannot be treated the same in medicine. Because of these genetic differences, women are more prone to autoimmune diseases, for example, than men are. We must approach our patients in accordance with their biology. Chromosomes, women have 2 X's, men have an X and a Y. Those are genetic markers. They're genetic markers for female and male, respectively. Okay, binary. That's the rule, and it's self-evident. Exceptions to the rule, biological exceptions to the rule, do not invalidate the rule. And by that, I am referring to intersex conditions. We live in an imperfect world. We live in a world with disease and disorder. There are a variety of very rare biological genetic disorders that result in disorders of sex development. These individuals have a true physiological, genetic, biological problem. So it may be appropriate within those cases. They may need surgery, they may need hormones, but that's a case-by-case basis. And they are the exception, not the rule. Identities, they're in our thoughts. Thoughts and feelings, those are not hardwired, they develop, and they may be factually wrong or factually correct. Individuals with disorders of sex development are being used as pawns in the fight for basically a civil right to mental illness. There's
full set of male and female genitalia. You are either born with an XY chromosome, a penis and testicles which produce sperm, or else you are born with an XX chromosome, a vagina and ovaries which receive sperm. No one in history has ever or could ever be born with both. It is physically impossible to spatially fit a penis, testicles, vagina, and ovaries all in the same body. You were either born a male with male chromosomes and a male anatomy, or you were born a female with female chromosomes and a female anatomy. And it doesn't matter what you feel like. If you feel that you are a man, but you were born female with female chromosomes and a female anatomy, then your biology is correct and your feelings are wrong. If you feel that you are a woman, but you were born male with male chromosomes and a male anatomy, then again, your biology is correct and your feelings are irrelevant and wrong when it comes to the truth of your biological sex.
A staggering 41% of people who identify as transgenders have reported that they have attempted suicide, which is over 25 times the rate of suicide attempts among the general population. So many doctors and studies have confirmed that when people often identify as a transgender, they almost always have one or more at least coexisting conditions like anxiety, depression, or bipolar. And then when we as a culture, in the media, in schools, when we're reading children's books about transgenders and having TV shows about talking about transgenders, we're encouraging children to try on a different gender or cross-dress. We're literally enabling this mental disorder. We're literally enabling this mass confusion in children.
Like here, you can go on here and see Charlize Theron, and she says she adopted this young black boy, and now she's making him dress like a girl and telling everybody she has 2 daughters now. You can go, here's the interviews, click on it. She talks about her 2 daughters, and there's tons of pictures of her dressing him up like a girl. She's transgendering him. She says that he identifies as a girl. So here this white woman adopts these young black children and starts humiliating this little black boy. Where are the Black Lives Matter people on this? In my opinion, this is child abuse. And we see it with tons of celebrities. Here's Pink, big shocker, right? I mean, she's so feminine. Pink is raising her daughter gender neutral. Daughter? Just look at the picture. I'll leave it to you. Both of them. It's just so sad that they do this to their children and publicly. And again, I'm so tired of being gaslighted just for reporting what we see with our own eyes. When we say that they're transitioning their children and they're changing the gender of their children, they're doing it openly. It's like on the cover of magazines. This isn't some conspiracy theory. This was a little girl. This was one of her twins. And it started when she was just a toddler. They started dressing her like a boy and transitioning her into a boy in the public eye. And there's no doubt that that's child abuse. These children haven't even gone through puberty yet. They don't have their hormones. They don't know. They can't make decisions. I mean, in fact, we won't even let a human get a driver's license until they're 16. They can't make those kind of decisions. They can't even buy a beer till they're 21. We don't think they're responsible enough to make those type of decisions, but they're telling us that these children are capable of making decisions for the rest of their life at 3 years old, 5 years old, 7 years old. My son, between the ages of 4 and 6, he thought he was a robot. So I didn't go and start cutting body parts off and putting machine parts on him and be like, he identifies as a robot. I'm just being a good mom. No, they'd have locked me up.